Are you looking for an easy way to climb out of low elo? Well, you came to the right place. My name is Stein of Socks and I became the rank 1 Malphite worldwide by playing him full AP mid. In this guide, I'll teach you everything you need to know about this pick to start winning your games today. Before we start, it's important to know there's two different playstyles you can play with AP Malphite. The first one is lane bullying and the other one is full burst Malphite. Knowing these playstyles and understanding when to use which one is important if you want to master this champ. It will determine stuff such as your runes, items and your general playstyle. I will explain everything as the video goes on, so don't worry. First, let's talk about lane bullying Malphite. Lane bullying Malphite speaks for itself. You play the style to win your lane. You bully your lane opponent and try to get as big of a lead in lane as possible, while your opponent is bleeding XP and gold. You constantly want to poke them down and force them to either reset or die. This strategy works best against champions with low range and not a lot of sustain. Think of champs like Zed, Kiana or Katarina, but it also works great against champs like Kai'Sa or Lissandra. They have short range and their trade pattern and sustain are easily beaten. On the other hand, we have Burst Malphite. You play this style when you are unable to win lane by outtrading your opponent. You want to avoid getting bullied out of lane as much as you can and look for a complete all-in when the time is right. This strategy works best against champs with a lot of range, strong trading, lots of sustain or a way to block or dodge your Q. Think of champs like Taliyah, Lux or Syndra. They have a lot of poke and can stay out of your Q range, but they have no real defense against an all-in with your ultimate, since they are immobile and squishy. Also a champ like Kassadin will force you to go burst Malphite, since he can easily tank your poke with his magic shield. Alright, now that we've got that out of the way, let's look at the runes. For lane bullying, you want to take runes which help you win trade. This will always be Arcane Command, Mana Flow Band, Transcendence and Gathering Storm. Personally, I don't like Scourge that much. I think it's a bit overkill, so I normally go Gathering Storm, but I think you can just pick whatever you like on this one. Then you want to head over to Resolve and always take Demolish into either Bone Plating or Second Wind. This depends on the trade pattern of the enemy. For example, Naafiri has quite a consistent poke, so you want to look for Second Wind, while LeBlanc will often look for all-in trades, so you want to take Bone Plating. To finish it off, you always want to be going for attack speed, adaptive force and flat health. For burst Malphite you want to be looking for electrocute into cheap shot, abo collection and obviously ultimate hunter, so you can ult as much as possible. Then once again you want to head over to resolve and choose between second wind and bone plating. But this time instead of demolish you take overgrowth, since you won't be proccing demolish anyway. To finish it off you will still go attack speed, adaptive force and flat health. Now let's talk about the belt. Once again there's a difference depending on if you want to play for lane bullying or burst. For lane bullying you always want to buy Doran's ring as a starter and then you want to rush Rod of Ages. After this, depending on your matchup, you want to buy defensive boots and either Zonias or Banshees. This will make you deal enough damage to your opponent while they can only tickle you. The Rod of Ages also helps a lot with sustain and extra HP for demolish damage. Next, I like to go Cosmic Drive, since you still need that additional ability haste for your ult. After Cosmic you can build whatever you like. Rabadons, Shadow Flame, Crypt Bloom, Storm Surge, Lich Bane or Void Staff, all great options depending on what you need. For burst you can choose between Doran's ring or even shield if you think you need it to survive that poke. Your main belt will consist of Malignance into Sorcerer boots. After this you should go for Shadow Flame, Storm Surge, Crypt Bloom and Rabadons. This order is not really strict as long as you buy Malignance first, because you will need the mana and the ult haste. In some cases you could even go for Void Staff if they have a lot of magic resist. In this chapter I want to go over Malphite's abilities a bit fast. I'm gonna explain how and when to use them optimal and give a few extra tips alongside of them. We'll start with his passive. Malphite's passive is his most important and most abusable ability, especially in early game and especially in low elo. Every few seconds you get a shield for free as long as you don't take any damage. This returning shield gives you incredible sustain as long as you use it well. Make sure to look for trades only with your passive up and stand back when your passive is down. If you trade every time your passive is up, you will barely take any real damage while the enemy does take damage and waste mana. This feels frustrating and unfair for the enemy, and a lot of low elo players fall for this and are easily abusable in lane by abusing this sneaky tactic. Same goes for farming. Don't greed for too many minions without your passive up, because you will get poked out of lane. It is okay to let 1 or 2 minions die while you wait for your passive, because if you don't, you will lose way more farm by having to recall. Your Q is your main damage ability. Whether you play lane bullying or burst, you will always max Q. What I will say about this Q though, is that you shouldn't just spam your Q whenever you can in lane. You will quickly run out of mana and it leaves you useless in lane. What you want to do is Q when your runes are up. In this way you will deal more damage with Arcane Comment and you will lose less mana because of mana flow band. If you're playing Electrocute, you should only Q if you can combine this with other attacks to make sure you can actually proc Electrocute, otherwise you will just be wasting mana. If you're going for an all-in, you always want to Q last. By doing so the enemy will be CC'd for the longest duration of your combo, and besides that, after you're all-in, the enemy will often try to escape by dashing or flashing away. In this case your Q is the only ability you have which you can still use and it will still hit. Last but not least, everybody knows your Q slows the enemy, but some people seem to forget it also gives movement speed to yourself. If you are chasing or escaping, don't forget to Q any minion or monster for that extra movement speed buff. Malphite's W is his most underrated ability. By playing Malphite mid you are often gonna get pushed in, but by using his W, farming under tower becomes very easy. In a combo you should always auto attack reset with your W for a little extra damage. Malphite's W deals more damage than people think, so you can use this to turn around straight easily and surprise the enemy. His W is also very strong for pushing waves and towers, so use this to take as many platings as you can. A little tip about this W is when you turn it on, your first basic attacks will be empowered. Now this strong first basic attack has a cooldown, but your full ability will only start once you actually land this first empowered auto attack. However, here comes the fun part. The cooldown of your ability already starts running the second you press W, so by using your initial empowered auto attack at the last possible second, you will be able to basically stack 2 empowered Ws in one combo. But this only works if you know you're gonna be hitting your Ws in a few seconds. So this could either be 2 seconds before you ult in, or like when you're waiting in a bush and someone is approaching you. It's not the biggest difference, but it allows you to deal more damage in a full combo, since you'll be using your W twice. Personally, I always max my W second. I often see AP Malphites max their E second. I feel like I'm using my W way more, so for that reason I prefer to max this ability over my E. There's not too much I have to say about Malphite's E. Personally, I don't really like the ability since it's such short range and Malphite stands still while smashing the ground, but what I will say is that you should always E directly after your ult. It's the first thing you do, so in this way your E kills the least momentum you have. And the only other thing is, against some champions you wanna hold your E until they use something. For example, against Tristana you wanna hold your E until she E's you. In this way her attack speed gets slowed and she won't be able to fully proc her E. Malphite's ult is exactly what makes him so broken. It deals too much damage and without flash the enemy can't even dodge it. This ability is exactly what makes this pick completely broken. It makes Malphite the perfect champ to actually 1v9 games with. One perfect ult can completely turn around any game. The fact that so many control mages don't have any form of mobility makes them a free kill every time your ult is up, especially when you're going full AP. There are a few tricks I found with Malphite which help me to always find game winning ults. The first one is in laning phase. You often get pushed in under your tower and that's exactly what you want. Once the enemy wants to go for some juicy tower platings, you patiently wait until there's only caster minions and your opponent left. Here you want to ult plus E the minion wave and your opponent, and by doing so you instantly clear all the minions and the tower starts focusing the enemies. By using your Q at the end of your full combo, the enemy will take up to 3 tower shots plus an entire full AP Malphite combo, which they will never survive. This trick works every single game. Even in master lobbies I abuse this trick every game and it works every time, trust me. Besides this trick, you really want to spam your ult as much as you can throughout the game. Often people are waiting for the perfect 5-man wombo combo ult, but it's definitely worth to ult as much as you can, even if it's just for 1 kill. On the flip side, in team fights, you really want to be holding your ult as long as you can. In this way, the enemy team is awkwardly waiting to properly commit to the fight and using all of their stuff, and once they finally do use all of their important stuff, you can freely ult the important members of the team, or they will eventually stack up on top of each other, and that's when you strike. If you engage at the start of the fight, chances are big they will all flash out of your ult and you get one tapped. In lane you should always communicate with your jungler. Whether it's pinging or fully typing it out, the jungler should always gank you when your ult is up. The first gank they might flash out of your ult if they react in time, and that's okay, but after this you have 5 minutes of completely free ganks every time your ult is back up. So you definitely want to make sure your jungler is on the same page as you and abuse this timer. The last thing I want to show you is this cool Malphite ult trick. You can make Malphite's ult go faster through walls. By holding your cursor inside of the wall, Malphite will dash extremely fast to the other side, and because of this, the enemy has no time to react whatsoever. The closer you're holding your cursor to yourself, the more speed you get. But obviously, this is also a bit more risky, for obvious reasons. The further away you hold your cursor, the slower you go. But this is a lot less risky and often still fast enough to surprise the enemy, so abuse this. Alright, we finally went through all of Malphite's abilities. Now I will show you how to play every stage of the game step by step. So let's start by laning phase. Malphite's laning gets easier as time goes on. You will get more poke, more damage and more tanky as time goes on, but before level 6 you are living a nightmare. But these first levels are also the most important ones, because if you can manage to stay ahead or even in lane, bullying and bursting the enemy will be a lot more easy from level 6 on, so I will teach you how to do this. Let's start from level 1. If you're playing lane bully Malphite, which means you took Arcane Comet, you want to be looking to Q every time Arcane Comet and Mana Flow Band are up. In this way you are quickly gaining max mana, which will help you in a few minutes to spam poke the enemy and not run out of mana. But please, please, please only Q when your runes are up, especially this early into the game, because you will run out of mana and lose trades, which will lead to you missing a lot of farm and XP. In the first 5 levels you want to farm as much as you can without taking too much damage. Here your passive is the most important ability you have. Every time your passive is up you want to walk up and take as much farm as you can. While you're taking the farm, the enemy will poke you, trust me. Once you got the minion you came for, just quickly run back and wait for your passive to get back up. You want to keep doing this over and over again, and slowly the enemy will be wasting their mana and you're still doing fine. If you combine this with Arcane Comet and Mana Flow, you will slowly be out-sustaining the enemy mid laner hard, and they don't even know why. Once the enemy starts getting low or out of mana, you can farm for free and you survive long enough to get to level 6. If you're playing Burst Malphite, so with Electrocute, you want to play the exact same way, which means playing around your passive. But in this case, just don't throw your Q ever, at all. It won't deal any damage anyway, you will just be wasting mana. Instead, you should use your mana to farm under tower with your W and E. If you strictly follow these steps, you will get to level 6 in a good state, and from here on out the fun begins. So one more time, don't do anything when your passive and or runes are not up. And yes, it is okay to miss a few minions. If you greed for all minions, you will lose way more by having to recall. Okay, so you reached level 6 and probably bought either Catalyst or Lost Chapter. What now? With lane bully Malphite, your sustain, tankiness and mana are starting to add up. You slowly want to start throwing more and more Qs as you're slowly maxing out this ability. However, for the time being, still try to play around your passive. The trades will be free at this point. Here you will see you will manage to get a bit more lane prio, and you can use this prio to take dragon or help your jungler with an invade. Personally, I would discourage you from roaming too much. If you're roaming too much, your laner has a chance to heal back up, fix the wave, get ahead in gold and XP if your roams don't work out. So now all the lane dominance you could have had is wasted. Instead, you want to make the enemy mid laner feel like he's in hell, constantly pushing them out of lane and not giving them a single angle to roam or snowball, as you mostly play this playstyle against assassins. But if the enemy mid laner ever finds a roam timer, push your lane in as quick as you can. With Demolish and the health you bought, you can often take up to 2 platings before the enemy mid laner returns. Also, if you happen to push in while your opponent is still in lane, just proc Demolish as much as you can. I often get 5 solo platings before 40 minutes while playing lane bully Malphite, and this greatly increases my lead. If you're going burst Malphite, your post level 6 will look a lot different. At this point you're still very squishy and the enemy mid laner probably has a lot of poke. So here you still want to survive as much as you can and don't try to trade too often. You can only trade if you know certain you can proc electrocute. Otherwise, please just don't. Just throwing plain Qs is not gonna win you the matchup. So what you wanna do instead is communicate as much as you can with your jungler. Let them know your ult is up, and the only way the enemy mid can survive is by flashing. Be transparent with your jungler though. Tell him it's okay if the enemy flashes, because after using it you can repeat the same plan for free for 5 minutes long. Sadly, you will be needing your jungler for now, since you won't be able to 100 to 0 someone yet. So ping your ult cooldown and let your jungler know in time what your plan is. In this way he can also make sure his jungle pathing is on track. If your jungler listens, you will quickly snowball the lane. You get gold and XP for killing the enemy, and you will get gold and XP for freely pushing the lane and resetting while your opponent is looking at a grey screen. Look, I know what you're thinking now. But my jungler never listens to me. First of all, type and ping in a human way. Don't spam and don't cry. This is just annoying and he won't listen. If this still doesn't work, I have 3 more plans for you. Plan 1. Just all in. You might not be able to kill the enemy mid laner, but at least he will get low enough to which you're gonna be able to walk up and zone him instead of the other way around. Tip: do this while you're still full HP. Plan 2. Use the minion wave under tower cheese skill. It's broken. Plan 3. If all else fails and you're getting completely bullied in lane, simply choose either top or bot and repeatedly just spam ganks in this lane. If your ult is up, just leave your wave, whatever, you walk bot or top and you spam your ult on cooldown and get at least 1 lane extremely far ahead. Bonus points for destroying the mantle of the enemy lane you're camping. Mid game is a good time for AP Malphite. Here you're snowballing the game and your ult CD is getting shorter. What you want to do while playing lane bully Malphite is take every single tower plating and every single dragon, because you should be able to have prio every time. If you eventually take down the mid tower, you want to swap with your bot lane or help them to start doing the same there. Slowly but surely you will become a side laner, and that's totally okay because nobody can stop you. If they ever try, you can just poke or burst them out of lane whenever you want. Just make sure you're always ready for the big fights that are starting at this time of the game. So always get side lane prio, move to your team, take the objective and go back to side lane. It's really not that hard. Just make sure you don't waste too much time looking for crazy angles. By winning side lane you're already doing something useful, so don't waste time. If nobody comes to stop you, the enemy mid laner is probably looking for a big fight in the mid lane with his team. But don't fall for this. Just push the tier 2 tower. It's up to your team to not fall for the bait and lose a 4v5 fight. Only fight if there's something to fight for. It's hard not to get baited into fighting, but this truly is the most consistent way to win games. Just fight for an objective, otherwise just win side lane. While playing burst Malphite, you kinda wanna do the same, but not completely. Most of the times you won't be able to take the mid tower by yourself, so ask your jungler to gang mid, and if this works you should push the tower together. If this still doesn't happen, you should just survive until your bot lane comes mid, and now you want to swap to bot. The big difference with burst Malphite compared to lane bully Malphite is that it will still be very hard to take prio, even in side lane. Instead, you want to hover around your team and look for a lot of catches or all-ins. But if you see bot lane is gonna crash under your tower, run back, catch the wave and come back. You still want to fight mostly for objective, but with burst Malphite you also want to look for some catches whenever you can. You're building Malignance as well, so you really want to ult as much as possible. Alright, so the very last thing I want to talk about with you guys is team fighting. So team fighting is Malphite's specialty, as you know. One big ult can completely turn around any game, so make sure you get the most out of it. There are 3 ways to play team fights with Malphite and I will go over them from best to worst. The first one is holding your ult. This might sound crazy, but like I said earlier in this video, having patience with using your ult is completely broken. If you're playing a team fight with Malphite, everybody will be hovering their finger over flash, zonias or any way to dodge your ult. Oftentimes, the enemy carry is scared to properly fight because he knows the AP Malphite burst is coming. By holding your ult, the enemy team can never fully commit to a fight, and this makes it easy for your own team to fight. So what you want to do is wait until the perfect ult presents itself. This could either be like their carry using their flash, so now he's a free target, or when the enemy finally stack on top of each other, or when one of your teammates gets a good stun or engage or whatever. The second one is peeling. In this case you have an OP AD carry for example, and what you want to do is ult and burst whoever gets close to your AD carry. By doing so your AD carry can freely play the fight and carry it for you. And the last one is ulting in first. Now I'm not saying it is bad to be the first one to engage on AP Malphite, but what I'm saying is that it's very difficult to do so. When you're the primary engage, make sure the one you're ulting has no way to dodge your ult. Otherwise you will completely throw the game away in seconds. You will ult nothing and die instantly, so make sure the enemy has no way to dodge your ult. Then you can look for the engage yourself. This is also possible if you're coming from out of a bush or over a wall. In this way it will be way harder for the enemy to react in time, even with flash up. And that's how you carry team fights with AP Malphite. Alright, to finish this video off, I have a few honorable mentions. First of all, the Malphite skin tier list, yes! Alright, personally I always use the Malphite prestige skin myself. It plays very nice, it feels cool, I love the skin, it's just sick. But also, we cannot deny the WhatsApp Malphite skin, it's goated, we all know it, it's the best. And don't come at me for putting old gold Malphite this low, this skin is ass, it's complete trash, you feel skinny as fuck, it's not good, just don't play it, okay, and don't come at me, it's bad, trust me. You might have seen it at the start of the video. So against champions like Irelia, Yasuo and Yone, what you want to do is you take the rune setup from the burster Malphite and you use the belt from lane bully Malphite and you combine these two to play against fighters because they have too much sustain or shields to block your poke. But if you go full burster Malphite you're not going to be able to burst them, so you need more tankiness as well versus them. So against the fighters you take the burst or rune page with the lane bully belt and that's how you play against those champs. And last but not least, ban Sylas. I'm dead serious. Ban Sylas every single game. If you don't ban Sylas, you are gonna have a bad time. Just ban Sylas, guys, trust me. Alright, that's gonna be the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. This is the first time I ever tried making a guide like this before, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments if you did. And also don't forget to like and subscribe of course. And thanks for watching. Bye bye.